You're listening to The Upland Rookie, a podcast presented by Upland Brits and Final Rise. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 47. This podcast is sponsored by Final Rise. If you're just getting started or a seasoned upland hunter and looking at some new gear for this fall, I'd highly recommend checking out the Final Rise systems. I've owned my Summit vest for about 3 years, and I have had it through many bird hunts, training sessions, NASTRA events, and I have beat this thing to the ground. It still is in the same condition as the day it showed up on my doorstep. American-made vest designed by a guy who is just like all of us. Give Final Rise a serious look at finalrise.com. Trinity Bretons is the home of the Épagneul Breton, also known as the French Brittany. All Trinity Breton dogs are from champion bloodlines that are field tested and family approved. For over 33 years, Trinity Bretons has worked to offer you the best bred Épagneul Breton in the country. Check them out at trinitybretons.com. Also on Facebook and Instagram at Trinity Bretons. Gunner Kennels. I've personally used and tested every major kennel brand on the market today. After months of hands-on experience, Gunner is the only kennel I'll use for my favorite bird dogs. Man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. That's a Gunner kennel. Inukshuk Professional Dog Food is the highest energy dog food in the world. Inukshuk's dense formulations ensure that your pup in training and your seasoned bird dog get what they need to succeed in the field. Inukshuk works hard so your dogs can work harder. Check them out at inukshukpro.com. All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great week so far. It is mid-June right now. It's mid-June. And summer is here in full force. We got the heat here in Colorado. But we're still getting out, able to run dogs early in the morning. I know it'll only get worse as the summer progresses, but we're making do. It's been good. The mornings have been nice and cool still. So I'm getting out, running my dogs. I'm starting to get them in there's a pond nearby, and so I'm getting them to swim a little bit. Wynn can swim, which was super exciting. I was able to toss her in there a couple days ago with Gage, and she was super excited. And she's not the most graceful swimmer yet, but I was happy to know that she's eager and wants to try to keep up with Gage. So that's always been a nice thing in the summertime. Find some water, get them swimming. So that's been fun. Getting them conditioned, getting them running. I know last week I dropped an episode about roading your dogs on the bike. So a lot of feedback from that. Thank you guys. I'm glad that was insightful for some of you. I'm sure it doesn't apply to everybody, but I'm glad a lot of you found that one helpful. And so again, just some of the things that I've learned along the years of biking my dog, and again, some of the reason why I do it, some of the things I've learned and do's and don'ts and all that good stuff. So again, hopefully that was helpful to more of you. I know some of you have reached out and said you enjoyed it. So anyways, I'm glad that one worked out. Okay, I actually have quite a bit to get to in this intro. One of the things, so I was running my dogs a couple days ago, and summertime here in the West, we get speargrass, cheatgrass. There's a lot of different names for some of those grass seeds, weed seeds. And also I have to apologize. I have a summer cold right now, and so I probably sound like a stuffy mess right now, but apologize. You'll just have to bear through it. So I ran dogs, and then I always do a tailgate check. And man, I didn't look like when I put them down with the area I was running them, did not look like there was a ton of cheatgrass. But once I put them up on the tailgate, man, it was in their paws, on their belly, in their armpits. It was everywhere. And so a couple notes on that. One, the importance of a tailgate check on your dog, even in the summer. Just be careful. Take the extra time to look over them really good. That stuff gets buried under their fur, and it's hard to see sometimes. It's hard to feel, and so take the extra time, even in the summer. I know tailgate checks are important in the hunting season as well, but don't overlook that kind of stuff in the summer if you're running your dogs. Again, when I put them down, it did not look like there was a lot of cheatgrass around, but there sure was. So do tailgate checks. The other thing I was going to mention is the importance, and this starts when you have a pup. And even if they're older now, I'm sure you can start conditioning them, but the importance of playing with your dog's feet and their ears and their mouth. When they're pups, I cannot underestimate this enough, because what it does is it makes, when I'm doing a tailgate check and trying to pick out, 30 seeds of cheatgrass for my dog, it makes that process so much smoother. They're not going to be stressed and pulling away and fighting you when you're trying to check each paw in between the toes. And that's something I've done with both dogs a lot when they were puppies, because again, I've heard the importance of it and I took it to heart. So make sure you're doing that with your pup. Play with their ears, their feet, their toes, their legs, their bellies, because again, there's going to come a time where you're doing a tailgate check, or you need to who knows, maybe they get an injury and you need to wrap their leg or something. It's going to make that process a lot smoother for you, less stressful for the dog. If you grabbing their paw and touching them and looking at their toes is kind of a normal thing for them. And so just wanted to kind of stress the importance of that. Again, just kind of, it hit me this week when I was pulling cheatgrass out of Wynn, of saying, you know what, this kind of, I can see the payoff now. I can see the payoff from, when I picked her up of putting her on the couch and just kind of holding her feet and squeezing them and, looking at her toes. It's really, really going to pay off in the long run. Again, when you have to do something like that and pull some damn cheatgrass out of their toes. So that's the, I don't know what I'm going to call that, hot tip of the day, whatever you want to call that. Okay, so that was that. Reviews. This is a quick little podcast update. Last couple weeks, we were trying to get over 100 reviews, rating and reviews on Apple Podcasts, and we did it. Thank you guys. We're several over 100 now. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to leave a rating and review. I read every one of the reviews, and I am so appreciative, guys, of just what this podcast has meant to you guys in such a short time. I think I get most excited, to be honest with you, some of these reviews from you guys and girls who have been hunting a long time. I think that's what excites me the most, that this is not just hitting those new rookie upland hunters and bird dog lovers. It's hitting and it's impacting those who have been doing this a long time. And so everyone listening, thank you guys so much just for your support and your time that you've invested into this show. I talked to so many of you guys throughout the week, just about whether it's questions or just talking bird dogs or hunting plans, or it's really, really fun to get to do this with you guys. And so I really want to thank you just for that continued support. So couple other things. Again, so sorry. I have this, I mentioned this a little while ago. I have an awesome lineup coming up here this summer with some guests. I know for sure 2 guests who have never done a podcast before, so you're not going to be able to hear them, at least so far. They're not on any other podcasts out there, and both episodes I've recorded both of them already, and they have turned out really, really good. So I'm really excited for some of those coming up, and then I have a whole host of guests coming up that I think are unique, a little bit different, and a lot of fun. And so just be ready be ready for some of those coming down the way. Hey, I wanted to mention also, I talked a little bit about Patreon. I'm new to Patreon. I just started it about a month ago, maybe less. And just want to make you guys aware of that and some of the cool things coming up with Patreon. So head over to Patreon. It's just patreon.com/the Upland Rookie Podcast. So pretty simple to find. And there are some goals set within that. Once I hit X amount of Patreon members, I'll be doing some giveaways. And so the first benchmark is once we get to 20 Patreon members, I have an Onyx Elite membership card sitting right here in front of me, and I'm going to give that away to you guys. So 20 Patreon members. I think we have 5 right now. So 15 more, and you'll be eligible for that giveaway. And so the odds are really good to get entered into that. Again, any of the Patreon tiers will get you entered for the giveaway. Some of the higher tiers, your name will go in the hat a little bit more. But if you just want to do the basic one, your name will still go in the hat. For that. So Onyx Elite membership card, it's a little over, I think it's about $100 in value. So get in on this giveaway. Onyx is something I renew every year, and I will not never have it or ever have it, whatever you know what I mean. Then the other cool thing, guys, is the other kind of benchmark is once I hit 50 Patreon members. As of right now, I have that set on there. I'm going to start doing some bonus episodes for Patreon members only, some short little bonus content episodes of things that you guys have been asking to hear more about, whether it would be, a packing list or some things I've learned. Again, just kind of shorter bite-sized episodes. So once I hit 50 Patreon members, I'll start cranking those out for the members over there. The other cool thing, guys, is I have how do I set this up? It's summertime. It's freaking hot right now. Okay. It's freaking hot. A lot of places around the country. And I have a Gunner Fan Kit 2.0. So the brand new fan kit that they just released. I am going to be giving one of those away. And so Patreon is going to be your best chance to be able to get in on that giveaway. It's about a $300 fan kit, brand new inbox, all the bells and whistles. Just got it a few weeks ago from Gunner, and this thing, they've upgraded the battery. It is I think stainless steel fan inside, so it can get wet, it can be out in the elements. It is a heavy duty fan. So this will mount on any Gunner kennel, this will mount on a custom kennel, or maybe even some other brands you have, but battery life is phenomenal on this thing. So once we hit, I think it's 50 Patreon members as well. Once we hit 50 Patreon members, I'm going to be giving away this fan kit. Again, if you want to do basic level, mid-level, or upper level, it just depends how many times you want your name in the hat. And so head over to Patreon, get signed up over there, and we're going to be giving away this Gunner fan kit here. Hopefully, midsummer, we'll see kind of how fast Patreon grows. But again, great opportunity. I know it's summer, it's hot, and so this is going to be an awesome addition to your kennel, your truck setup, whatever it might be. Again, really heavy duty quality. They've made a big upgrade over the original fan kit in this 2.0, and so really nice stuff. So again, that's all running through Patreon. You are going to up your chances significantly by heading over to Patreon and getting signed up over there. So I have the basic wing shooter, I have the elite wing shooter, and then the gold level wing shooter membership. Again, within each of those tiers, there's some perks and things that you might want to be aware of. Again, I have some hats on the way. Again, shipping delays, design delay, like there's been a whole shitload of things I've been waiting on. So those are coming, but it's going to be a little bit longer. And so again, more details over there. Gold level does get a free hat for the first 15 Patreon members. So if you want a free hat, head over to Patreon/the Upland Rookie. Okay, guys, sorry, that was kind of long. Last thing, and we're going to dive into today's episode. I sit down with Courtney and Brian, and they are both over at Sportsman Alliance. Sportsman Alliance is doing some awesome work. We unpack it in a lot more detail. They're doing some great education stuff in schools and helping educate the next generation on hunting. And Sportsman Alliance, their big thing, you may follow them on social media or whatever it might be, but they're really trying to protect hunting and fishing for the next generation. And so we dive into some of the Senate bills that are going around right now and unpack some of the work that they're doing on each of those. We talk about the lead ban. We talk about the Massachusetts Senate Bill 1322 that is trying to get passed and trying to put some heavy restrictions on kennels and things like that could, if that passed there, then could trickle down to other states. And again, I think it's stuff that we as hunters and outdoorsmen and women need to be aware of. We need to be educated on some of these things that are going on, again, whether it's in your state or not. And we get into that on the podcast here. And so without further ado, this is Courtney and Brian from Sportsman Alliance, and I hope you guys enjoy.
So I'm Courtney Nicholson. I live in Boston, Massachusetts, well, just south of Boston on the South Shore. And I work at Sportsman's Alliance. I've been with the company about 7 months now. But I've been working in the hunting industry since 2011. So all over the place.
Fantastic. And what brought you to the East Coast? Because I know you used to live in Colorado.
Yeah. So I'm originally from New England. I'm from Massachusetts. So
Very
been
cool.
all over the place, been all over the country, and moved back home to be closer to family. So
very nice.
And I just miss the ocean. So
it's pretty
Colorado
cool.
almost has it all.
I mean, we have a couple small lakes, right? I know. If you can call them lakes. Very cool, Courtney. You are my first guest I'm talking to from Boston. So, I mean, that's something special.
You're welcome. And I'm sorry.
Brian, how about you, sir?
I am Brian Lynn with the Sportsman's Alliance, Vice President of Marketing Communications. I've been with the organization for, I guess we're going on 8 years now. I don't know where the last 8 years have gone. It's flown by. I live in Washington State, right on the Idaho border, about a mile from Idaho. I can see it. It looks like freedom and looks great. But I too have lived all over the country, as I came through the industry. The hunting industry is in Texas, and then Oklahoma for 6 years with ESPN Outdoors, and then Outdoor Life brought me over to the East Coast in New York City, which is not a good thing for me. And then I got back to the West Coast where I grew up, and so I work remotely. Our communications department is remote since it's both just Courtney and I, and headquarters is in Columbus, Ohio. Okay,
very cool. Very cool. I got to ask, does ESPN even have an outdoors division anymore?
No, that folded in, I think it was around 2008, 2009, somewhere in there, 10, somewhere in there. They got into that to make up for the loss of NASCAR and did really well. I mean, it was doing great. And then, they just decided to fold it, I guess. And TV ratings could make more with just about anything.
More baseball and football, I guess.
Women's softball, anything got higher ratings.
Pretty much. Yeah. Oh man, that's cool. Well, I definitely want to dive into a lot more about what you guys are doing at Sportsman Alliance, and I have a ton of questions around some of the work you guys do. But I'd love to get to know you guys a little bit more. Tell me, let's go back to Courtney. What kind of, outdoor recreation or hunting, or what do you enjoy, and kind of what got you into that?
Yeah. So I have a very unique story, as I've been told, I guess. So I grew up in New England. We lived right on the ocean. And we did a lot of clamming, a little bit of fishing, lots of camping, went up to New Hampshire and Maine all the time. But no one in my family hunted. And so I went to college in New York City, wanted to work in the TV industry, and then graduated, spent a couple years working on set for a couple different shows. And then decided I wanted to go work at a network. applied to every network I could think of. And the best, most interesting offer was with a network called Sportsman's Channel, which was a hunting and fishing and shooting channel. And so they were based in Wisconsin, but they had a satellite office in Manhattan. They also own like 15 different magazines. And so I started working there and just dove right in. So kind of was a crash course about it. And on the advice of one of my mentors, one of our VPs, she said, you should take hunter education. Like it would really be informative for your job. And I said, cool. So I took hunter ed in the Bronx.
How was that?
It was at a substance treatment facility center. And it was very unclear when you were signing in, which were you signing in for? So I took hunter ed, and then I went to my first SHOT Show in, I guess, 2012. Met a lot of people, and they said, "What's your favorite thing to hunt?" And I said, "Well, I don't hunt." They said, "Why?" And I said, "I don't know. I live in New York City. I'd love to. I don't know anyone." And so I was introduced to a gal my age who lived in upstate New York, and she said, "I'll take you hunting." I called her out of the blue, and I said, "Will you take me hunting?" She said, "Sure." She said, "Have you taken hunter ed?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Do you have a shotgun?" I said, "No." She said, "Do you have any clothes?" I was like, "No." So she's like, "Do that and come up." And so drove up, met this girl, we went turkey hunting, and that was the beginning of the end. So actually since then, I've made a point I've been working exclusively in the hunting industry ever since then. So
wow, kind of took over your life, kind of wrapped up into one and got you on track.
It became everything. So yeah, I've worked at various kind of companies throughout the industry, apparel companies, a lot of production companies, and joined Sportsmen's Alliance about 7 months ago. I had my heart fixed on, I really wanted to get into the nonprofit sector and kind of make a difference. So
that's fantastic. I gotta ask, how was your first turkey hunt?
It was fabulous. It was really hot. It was the last 2 days of the season. It was Memorial Day weekend. So it was hot. They weren't talking. I saw a hen, and that was it. And it was beautiful. I mean,
but it was memorable.
It was just I saw fawns playing in the field, like just the sunrise, and the upstate New York is a magical place. So beautiful. So
that sounds like it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Brian, how about you, sir? What are you into right now? And kind of tell me about your journey a little bit, getting into the outdoors and hunting.
Yeah. No, well, at first I was raised by a single mom for 10 years. And then when she remarried, my stepdad got me out there, and so we did waterfowl hunting and some upland bird hunting. And that's kind of where I started, from through middle school and high school. And then, into college, I started going deer hunting with my buddies a little more and stuff. And then after college, I got into the industry, and I mean, gosh, they were like, "We'll take you hunting and fishing." I was like, "Sweet, I get paid to write stories and go hunting and fishing. Awesome." So I've been lucky to be able to do a little bit of everything, have some great adventures all over the country. And so, it's just been great. On my own time, I like to deer hunt and go elk hunting every year with my buddies. And then, the waterfowl hunting I've slacked off on lately, but the upland bird hunting I love, and got my dog and just love it. So that's a real big focus on my own time, but pretty much do it all. Big game, just did some bear hunting last week and got my spring turkey this year. So
nice.
So, and actually cooked that last night for dinner. A big old turkey breast. So
nothing better. Yeah. That's fantastic. What kind of bird dog do you have?
Black lab.
Okay. So, classic.
Classic. You can't go wrong with a lab.
You can't go wrong. Classic black lab.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. Do you do a lot of hunting? Because you're in Washington, right? Washington State. Okay. Do you do hunting there? Do you travel to Idaho?
A lot of it here in Washington. I mean, it's got some great waterfowl hunting that kind of flies under the radar. It's usually like number 5 or so in the harvest stats.
Oh wow.
And so it's got a little of everything. It's got sea ducks on the coast. You got your divers. You have your field ducks, puddlers, and stuff. So it's got everything. As far as upland birds, I mean, we have chukar, quail, pheasant, huns. So you can go out and get a true mixed bag. Yeah,
you guys got a little bit of everything. Are the wild pheasant? Is it decent? Are they pretty?
It's tough. Phenomenal? I mean, if you get down, you get down in the Palouse and the southeast corner and stuff, there's still some great habitat. Okay. So much of the Eastern Washington farming has gone to clean farming, where it's edge to edge fields.
Wow.
And I mean, where I grew up in the middle of the state is the big ag place. And it's really a semi-arid desert, but they irrigated it with Grand Coulee Dam. And so being able to find the strips of habitat that have food nearby and water, it usually seems to have 2 out of the 3.
Okay.
And so it can be tough. And last summer was brutally hot. This summer now we're like underwater. God only knows what this fall is going to look like.
Polar opposites. Yeah. I don't know much about Washington. Do they have walking access programs? Is it all state land? Like what's kind of the mixture?
There's a lot of public land. I mean, like I said, the state is very different. You know, everybody thinks of Washington State, they think of Seattle and rain and green. And while we've had a lot of rain this spring, you know, we have a little bit of everything. I'm in the foothills here of, you know, before you get into Idaho and the mountains, but in the middle of the state, like I said, is a semi-arid desert. So we have all sorts of terrain and everything. So, there's a lot of public land, BLM land, state land, you know, federal national forest. There's a bunch.
Yeah, that's good. Good opportunity, at least, to get out there. Courtney, I know you got 2 setters. Was that correct? Tell me about your dogs. Yes. and what led you to pick up a couple bird dogs.
Yeah. Well, it just kind of fell into it. And so, I started dating someone who had English setters. And so I've always been a duck girl. That is my obsession. So I've always been focused on duck hunting and did a lot of upland hunting in Colorado, mostly in Nebraska. So pretty much you got to drive pretty much to the Nebraska border anyways to get good hunting, and you might as well just cross over. And so a lot of hunting in Nebraska, a lot of hunting in Kansas, and would just hunt, you know, with friends of mine who had dogs, and a little bit without dogs. You know, if you're getting a good piece of property that hasn't been hunted, like you don't even need one. You just kick them, like they wake up. They're
right.
They're everywhere.
Go fly.
Yeah. So I had just kind of fell into that. So I lived in Michigan for a year and did a little bit of grouse hunting. And now living in New England. Massachusetts does not have great hunting. There's a pretty cool, they do a lot of stock pheasants at some of the, you know, state land and stuff like that. Sure. But as far as, you know, wild birds, there are none. There's really no grouse in Massachusetts. But Maine is pretty darn close. So Maine has some pretty exceptional grouse, lots of woodcock. So last season was actually my first season, like really focusing on grouse hunting. Sure. And,
that's awesome. Do you guys
I am a total rookie. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you get the woodcock flight going through the East Coast like that or not? Really? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There's a pretty good migration of them. So they're awesome. They're around pretty much all grouse season.
That's fantastic. And what led you to pick up your own bird dogs, and what landed you on the setters?
Kind of wasn't my choice. I kind of that became my family. So my partner had a 5-year-old setter, and then it was about time to start a new dog, and so we got another little setter, and so she's about 7 months old.
Nice. That's awesome.
I voted lab. I was outvoted. But
setters are a good choice. Setters are a good choice for sure.
We do see duck hunting here, so you're not using a dog anyways. Sure. So
very cool. That's awesome. When you both think about this past season for you, I know Courtney, you're just getting into this and all, but last season, what were a couple highlights? Maybe hunting, upland birds, waterfowl. What were some highlights for you guys this past season?
I had a lot of highlights this past season. It was a pretty good season. So I shot my first rough grouse. Nice. That was actually over our dog, which was just totally magical. Everything came together. She pointed perfectly, held like perfect spot, like right near like a logging cut. So like bird flew out in the open. I actually hit it. Everything came together. Shot my first woodcock. It's just really, really perfect. And then did a lot of sea duck hunting. So
That's fantastic.
Yeah, shot a couple of sea ducks that I hadn't seen before, and yeah, hunted in a couple new states. Every year I try to hunt in at least 1 or 2 new states. So I think I checked 2 or 3 off the list for
Nice.
bird hunting last year.
Well, congrats.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I gotta ask a little more about sea duck hunting. What is that like, and how far are you going off the shore, I guess?
A little bit of everything. I mean, you can go out just a couple 100 yards, or you can go out kind of in the middle of nowhere. So
Wow.
we're usually hunting less than 1,000 yards off of some place or rock or island. So, if we'll go out to one of the islands, like out in like Boston Harbor or like Cape Cod.
Okay.
And
you're in like those, like, I've seen like those boat. You're basically sitting in a boat, right? Which is like a blind almost.
These are
or like a little kayak kind of thing.
Gigantic boats. So they're like submarines. They're huge official boats.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is way different than I was thinking.
They're like tanks. So you can do a lot of marsh hunting. So I did a lot of hunting actually on Long Island. And so it's pretty similar. Like you have all the marshes and you can, dress up a canoe, John boat, whatever you want, just kind of grass it. People put doors on it or whatever. But yeah, to go out actually into the open ocean, like you're literally just like motoring off like in the dark in, usually pretty nasty weather. So
sure. Wow.
There's like two people I trust to get on a boat, like that. So it's been a learning experience for me. I'm totally new to all of it. I'm just used to, I grew up right on the ocean. So you can literally sit on rocks in front of my house and, pass shoot ducks flying by. So the ocean was a big, scary mystery to me that I'm learning.
Sure. That's cool though. That sounds like a blast. Brian, how about you? How was this past season for you?
I'll be honest, this is the exact opposite of Courtney's. It's
really?
It sucked. It was the worst season of my life.
Oh, no.
Nothing went right. Nothing went well. Didn't get a deer. Didn't even get close to an elk. I mean, we couldn't sniff one. I think the close was probably 1.5 miles away. Just cows. That was horrible. So I was looking forward to a great upland season, and it was brutal. It was tough. Last summer was, this time last summer was 113 degrees.
Yeah.
And it just stayed that way. So it was pretty tough on them. And so scratching them out was tough. And so, yeah, that was tough. I mean, I got some, but it wasn't a easy shoot any day when we went out there. So yeah, it was brutal. So I guess I learned perseverance and to really enjoy what is taking place this year. It feels good to get back on it. But I guess kind of the highlights were I got my nephew out there for the first time. He, out of the blue, wanted to start hunting and, as a junior in high school. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, he took hunter's ed and we took him out there. And even though we didn't get a buck for him, and that's all we were at a 3-point minimum, we had a little spike come in and it probably came to within 20 yards of us. And he just thought that was really cool. And
that's awesome.
Got him out turkey hunting and this spring and got him, called a tom in from 400 yards or so and got it down to 10. Wow. And it was just behind some stuff. He couldn't get the shot off. Oh. I'm looking right at it. It's just like, it saw me eventually and was like, I'm out of here. And I was like, why did you shoot? But his heart was pounding. So he was enjoying that. And then also got a college buddy out of the blue, wanted to try hunting. So I had him and his son out there and got them their first wild pheasants. And,
wow.
Yeah. And so
that sounds like a success to me right there. Getting some new people out there. And
from the big picture, it was a very good and successful year. Yeah. Personally, it sucked for me. But
sure.
I'll take a year of that if that helps and gets those two going and involved.
Totally. That's what's important. I like the contrast too. Courtney, you were like, this was awesome. This is the best. And you're just like, I'm going to be honest. It sucked.
Yeah, totally.
I had my 2 years before that were like, I barely hunted like at all, did not make time for it. So yeah, I was like, screw it. I'm doing all the hunts.
Yeah. Yes. Just sign me up for everything. I'll go everywhere. Oh, that's so fun. That's so fun. Yeah. Hopefully this year, I know some places are getting more moisture, and hopefully for some birds that helps us. So that'll be good. But anyways, I want to get to Sportsman Alliance and some of the things you guys are working on over there. First, I'm kind of curious Courtney, what brought you to Sportsman Alliance? I know you were working in the TV industry, and like what drew you to Sportsman's Alliance?
Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned, I kind of, was looking for a next family to join and really just had it in my mind that I wanted to work at a nonprofit. And so I had kind of had my eye out for a while and had, kind of ears open looking for a new place to join, and, loved working at, I've worked at for-profit companies, a lot of marketing companies, soft goods, hard goods. And just as much as I loved it dearly, and it was a lot of fun, I felt this kind of paradigm shift in the hunting industry of, doing digital communications, doing a lot of social media. You read the comments and you see people, and to listen to the constantly like, where are we going? What is this big hunting industry, media, entertainment machine we're making? And what is it doing? And what is it saying outside of our industry? And, at a certain point I was just like, I kind of, I don't know. I think there might be something on the other side. And so, I thought, hey, I said, I've always wanted to work in a nonprofit, and I think that perhaps there might be something a little bit more fulfilling that I can come to work and, perhaps make a change, like perhaps educate people, instead of selling, educating. Yeah. And yeah, so it was just
That's
kind
awesome.
of luck that I had seen that Sportsman's Alliance had a position open, and I'd been a member and known about them for a while. I've known past coworkers who had worked there, and called up a bunch of people and said, what do you know about Sportsman's Alliance? And they said, you should go work there. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I happily ended up here. So
that's awesome.
Settled right in.
Yeah, that's great. Brian, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question. We're going to rewind a little bit. Can you tell listeners, tell myself even, like a little bit of history about Sportsman's Alliance, and give us an overview of what is Sportsman's Alliance kind of at its core?
Yeah. So at its core, we exist to protect hunting, fishing, and trapping, and to specifically do it from the animal rights movement. So we started in the 70s. We've been around since like about 1976, 77. There was a ballot initiative in Ohio to ban trapping. The animal rights movement brought it, Funds for Animals and HSUS and these brought it. And they saw Ohio as this tipping point. If they could get trapping banned there, they could move it to other states and take it. And so they tried to get it on the ballot, got it on the ballot. And then some businessmen, wildlife professionals, hunters got together and like, okay, we have to fight this, not knowing what the hell they're doing. And they just cobbled it together and raised money and, put the ads out, and they ended up defeating it, and they stopped it, and this was in the 70s, and just kind of as the animal rights movement was really taken off here in America really hard anyways, at the angle they go now, hitting the legislative and using the legal process to do it. So the election was over, they lost, our guys went back to work. They're just normal dudes. Well, they just went to another state, and this is what they do. They just move from state to state, seeing where they can get a victory, and they use that for leverage on neighboring states or similar states. So the new states started calling them, asking them what they needed to do to protect hunting and trapping back then. And so these guys saw a need, and they created the organization and would go in and help defeat these ballot initiatives. And then they started working in the legislatures and lobbying and, working that angle. And that's really the core and genesis of who we are. And it holds true today. I mean, we haven't changed a whole lot. We're a smaller organization. At first, we were never membership based. It was never like a chapter model. Sure. We were more like the superhero that came in and fought the fight and then went home or went to the next fight, in another state. And to some extent, that's still true today. We don't have a chapter system. We have a membership system and corporate partnerships and different things like that. But we work in state legislatures, all 50 state legislatures, and at the ballot box, of course, and then state and federal court. So those are the big places where we fight them. But then we also do research. We have an economic impact report that details, hunting and shooting, the taxes and the economic impact they have for all 435 legislative districts. You can take that information and go to your politicians and be like, hey, look, you need to start paying attention here. We have education programming where we're in public schools and have a science class that teaches conservation science and introduces kids to the North American model, that they don't understand. So hopefully one day, if they're hit with some of this propaganda, they can be like, wait a minute, that doesn't work. I don't remember. I remember something that, at least allow them to question it. Yeah. But yeah, that's our big, thrust is to protect hunting, fishing, and trapping. Yeah. So we don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, whatever. Yeah. If you're doing something from an outright ban to a kind of backdoor attack, like a coyote contests or breeding dogs and training dogs, if it's going to impact one of those disciplines negatively, we're going to step in front of it and
that's fantastic. I love how you guys are not just on the defense side, but you're on the offense side as well. It sounds like you're doing some things with education, being in schools. I think that kind of that combos, that's really cool, kind of getting on that offensive side as well. Is that something that you guys started kind of recently? Has that been around for a long time?
Well, we've had a youth program going back 20 years or so, but that was kind of more of a one day where we try to introduce friends and family and stuff and work through different trade shows or work with the Boy Scouts or different groups to try to get, especially, city people and city families and kids introduced to it. Everything's kind of changed, since we first opened that. One day, one-off events don't work. You need multiple touches. You need, several experiences. You need to be able to talk to them on, repeatedly. One day shooting a BB gun or catching a fish out of a little pond isn't going to change their paradigm when, 10 years later, when a ballot initiative comes up. You need that more in-depth touch and try to get them into the funnel to find some interest in this. So we created this conservation science class that's a year-long curriculum.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it teaches the 5 disciplines. It uses the 5 disciplines that feed into the North American model: hunting, fishing, trapping, boating, and shooting. And it talks about it, so you can talk about drag or resistance or weight, on trajectory. You can learn about fish and aging and age classes and how those work together. It's a very hands-on class. One teacher had the state come in and, game warden brought in a deer. The kids skinned it, quartered it, butchered it, wrapped it, so doing all that kind of stuff and kind of, as everybody likes to say now, normalizing it.
Sure. So, what kind of, getting into schools, and again, are we talking like rural Montana or have you gotten into some more city areas?
We launched in Ohio and Pennsylvania with the, blessing and some grant money from Ohio and Pennsylvania game departments. Wow. And, there's, of course, a lot of the small schools like it, but, we have some inner city folks that are interested in it. And we just did that this year, launched it this year, and we're in 71 schools across 5 states.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. About 2,000 kids.
That's awesome.
And the comments we're getting back are just phenomenal. Like, it gives you chills when you read them. They're like, I didn't know conservation involved hunting and fishing. I thought it was just how many animals were around. Another kid saying, I thought this would be my least favorite class. It turned out to be my favorite class. So they're boating, they're kayaking, they're shooting arrows, they're cleaning stuff. It's a really, really neat course. And if anybody wants it, all they got to do is call us. We'll help walk them through, the board process, or if a teacher has it, and they know a teacher who wants it, we can help out there.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, I think, even like you said, boating, fishing, trapping, I think those things kind of get forgotten about. I think people think it's just about hunting, shooting elk, shooting birds, maybe. I think you kind of forget about the other recreation pieces that go into this, like you mentioned. I think it's kind of eye opening to some people, I think.
Yep. And so that's what that class has. Before that, we were doing families afield for about 15 years. So that was in partnership with NRA and NSSF and NWTF that we did for, 15 years or so. And everybody probably knows it from your mentored hunting licenses or your apprentice licenses that you can get. Sure. That's what that was all about, getting people out there. At first it was, how do we get kids out there? And creating these apprentice licenses that if you go with somebody who's been hunting and has a hunting license, you don't have to pass hunter's ed, because that's a high threshold, finding time doing this, especially for an adult, which is where we then shifted to, was like, well, a first-time hunter is a first-time hunter. It doesn't matter if they're 10 or if they're 80, but to try to get an adult onset hunter who's somebody who has interest in it, at least, to go to a class or take a class that takes up time, and then to go out shooting and get, certified or qualified, and then get all the gear and do all of this for maybe they'll like it, maybe they won't.
Sure.
That's a tall order to ask. So we worked on this Families Afield, and I think it's in 46 states or 44 states, some form of it, so you can get people out there trying it.
And does something like that, the Families Afield, like how does someone know about that? Does that run through like a thing like Pheasants Forever or Backcountry?
That runs through the state. So like here in Washington, it's a 1 year, one-time deal where you get your hunter education waived. As long as you're with another hunter who's been licensed, some states it's 1 year, 3 years or whatever. Sure. You can go out there and don't have to have a hunter's ed. It's just an apprentice program.
Right.
In other states, it's 3 years, in some states it's,
I think Colorado's a year, I believe. I think it's a year in Colorado. Yeah.
There's some states that it's as many times as you want, but you always have to be with somebody. So that's kind of the more that they can do it with somebody, the more ingrained and more likely they are to then go take hunter's ed and be a part of it. Yeah. So that was a big success and something that was huge for us.
That's fantastic. And the curriculum you mentioned with, being in schools, that's something you guys developed yourself in-house? Yeah. Really?
Yep. It's a great program. We developed it and wrote that. It's like about a 300-page book. I got it around here somewhere, but it's a 300-page workbook, and every day there's like 2 pages they read and 3 or 4 questions they answer at home. That's their homework. Pretty easy, low, not super hard. But then they come to school and they do some type of lab with it, testing the breaking strength of fishing knots or whatever, so it's all tied together.
That's cool.
It's really cool. It's probably the only thing I've seen in 20 plus years of being in the industry that could actually change the trajectory of everything.
That's phenomenal.
Because we're reaching into the public school system.
Yeah.
Some people that have no idea about this world can now learn about it, and from a very scientific and practical matter. Yeah,
absolutely. Another question, and either you can answer this, Brian, Courtney. So around that, just something you hear people say is hunter numbers are declining, things are declining, we're not growing as much. When you hear that, what do you think? What's your take on when you hear someone say, "Oh, like hunting and fishing is dying, or it's declining"?
I mean, it's true. It's going down, or even if it's holding even, the overall population is growing. So as a percentage of the population, we're shrinking no matter what, but those numbers can be skewed a little bit, right? It's math. I hate math because it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm a words person, but the math, that's based on how many licenses were sold. So it's pretty accurate and pretty strong. Sure. But there are those that have, dropped out, that no longer hunt, or those who have aged out, that aren't doing it and aren't being represented there. So, it's usually higher than what it says, at least people who identify as hunters It's usually higher than what it says, but that's kind of the pressure point or the barometric point that we have to use to, measure this. And it tends to be declining, even though we got a little bump with COVID and stuff. But, overall it is though.
Okay. And then there's more of a practicality question, I guess. So let's say there's a new bill or a new initiative that's happening in a state. We'll take the, Ohio back in the day trying to ban trapping. How or when does your organization get involved? And I guess, how are you made aware of that? And do you have people, I don't know, stationed? Just walk me through this.
So, a ballot initiative, that's pretty easy to see coming. They have to apply and get everything approved and then go gather signatures. So we have plenty of time to see that coming up. What's harder is, the legislation in all 50 states. It's usually hitting about the same time. First of the year till now is just kind of crazy. There's all sorts of bills that are filed and pushed in and then assigned to committees and moved through committees. And, we have software that we have keywords set up for that grab anything that could be part of that. And then those guys in government affairs, God bless them, I don't know how they do it, but they read bill after bill after bill and see, okay, this does apply or this doesn't apply. Okay, this is a threat. This isn't a threat, or this is something we need to keep an eye on, but it's in a friendly state or a friendly committee, so we can just kind of put that on the burner and just keep an eye on it. This is a bad bill or a bad state, or, this committee chairman, this is his axe to grind. So it's going to come up, and so they engage in it then and, start making phone calls and talking to people, finding a way to the right people that they need to talk to either get it killed or get it amended or just drown it and table it, whatever they got to do. The sooner you can kill a bill, the better. It doesn't gain the momentum. It doesn't get, off the ground. It doesn't get headlines. It doesn't get, the partisan pull with everything. So if we can kill it or amend it, it's to take us out of it. The sooner we can do that, the better. And we try to do that. If not, that's when we have to put the alerts out and the stories and be like, okay, now we need to put some pressure on them.
Yeah. I was going to ask, are you just getting overwhelmed with small, I guess, bills being approached that people like me might not even hear about? Yeah.
I mean, there's what we put out on the site and social media and stuff is just a fraction of what they're working on the back end. Like I said, we try to kill it before it even comes out, before we even need to do anything about it. Cause then it's just quiet and doesn't happen, and it's hard for me coming from an editorial background, and I like to argue anyways. So, I like to punch them in the face and make them look foolish and rah. That doesn't work. It took me a little bit to learn that when I got here. Like, no, this is politics. Yeah. You can't give them a black eye and throw a pie in their face because we're going to have to work with them in the future, or this is going to come up.
Sure.
Let's take the win and move on to the next one.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So it's pretty cool, too. We get, besides our government affairs team, we get a lot of outreach from our members. So individual members, but also, we work with all the other, NGOs. So we partner with, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Mule Deer Foundation. So if they see something, they, we're always all talking to each other. Also, all of our club memberships. So we have club memberships all over the country. Individual state bear hunting associations, Massachusetts Sportsmen's Council, Tennessee Bear Hunters Association. So they're always on it, emailing us, calling us, tagging us and stuff on social saying, have you guys heard about this? Are you watching this? And, most of the time we're like, yep, we're on it. We're watching it. And then every so often we're like, oh, no, we haven't heard of that yet, and so it's really cool. I call us the Ghostbusters. So it's like when
kind of all working together, alerting each other.
Well, it's like when you don't know who else to call, it's like we have a number. It's right on our website. You call and one of two lovely ladies in our headquarters will answer the phone and they'll direct you to, who needs to hear about what's going on in your state. So
that's fantastic.
We're very direct to us. We're very grassroots. We got the line open. So
that's so cool. How big is your company as a whole, as far as employees go?
Total employees, we're probably like 15, 18, somewhere right in there. Not
Okay.
very many, pretty small. I mean, that
Okay.
includes everybody, the people, the bean counters and the folks doing fulfillment
That's
and
awesome.
answering the phone. So
How about your member base?
that gets a little trickier because we're a 501c3 and a C4. So we have donors, we have members, we have corporate partners, and so it gets tricky. We're smaller compared to a lot of the organizations out there. I mean,
Sure.
REMF, Pheasants, all the critter groups especially
Sure.
are a lot larger. So yeah, we're smaller, but and we've never, like I said, we never started with the chapter setup. We were just basically a political PR agency that would come in and run those ballot initiatives and then work on the back end and lobbying and working that stuff. So we were never set up to be a huge member organization.
Sure.
It's something we're still trying to explore and see if there's some way we can do something without creating the monster that we then have to feed, the
right.
the Demogorgon from Stranger Things, right?
Oh.
Well, that's part of our job. I know I talk to people sometimes and they go, well, I've known what you guys have done forever and you guys do great work, but like, you guys don't have members, do you? I was like, oh no, we have membership, and they're like, oh, well, I thought you guys were, oh, okay. So yeah, definitely getting the word out.
And another challenge there for us is there's a few states that are consistent, right? We know we're going to get stuff in New York. Even though they've just about banned everything, something's coming in California.
Sure.
There are places where it's consistent, but the animal rights movement moves and they target specific states at specific times with specific issues. So we may not be in a state for 2 or 3 years. There may not be that many attacks. They may be focusing on other places. And then it's hard to retain a member who isn't seeing a threat at their back door.
And there's, oh, wow. Yeah.
But then 3 years later, now they're coming after them, so it's.
And then you got to alert all of, for example, Colorado, hey guys, get ready because this is happening.
Yeah, so it's hard to tell somebody in Alabama or someplace, no, you need to stay engaged and keep paying your $35 measly a year.
Sure.
Even though we're working in Colorado and Washington and New York, now later on, they're going to come for you. I mean, it's kind of, sometimes it's a bit like selling insurance.
Sure.
I think a lot of people
you need it.
I think a lot of people are used to it too. I mean, especially being in Colorado, like I've been a Ducks Unlimited committee member for years since the first day I started hunting. And it's kind of, when you explain to people, okay, the money that you raise in your state isn't necessarily staying in your state. You're like, why? Be like, well, they're not breeding here. They're not wintering here. It's like,
they're just coming through.
So it's kind of like, you need like the money needs to go where it's urgent at the time or where it's going to do, the most good. And I think all of the NGOs have something similar kind of to that. So,
yeah, that's good. Well, I'd love to get into a couple specific, you call them bills or issues. I don't know what the right term is. For example, the Massachusetts, the restriction on breeding and kennels and sales. That's the Massachusetts Senate Bill 1322. Can you explain a little bit what's going on there? First off, just what is it? What's the concern there? And then unpack it a little more.
I'll let Courtney handle that. I was bear hunting last week when it came out, so she was running the show.
I mean, that's just kind of what we see a lot here, in lots of different states going on, especially in the Northeast, is that there's a lot of these bills that come through. A lot of them are well-meaning bills. They're bills that are trying to stave off, animal abuse, that are staving off puppy mills, that are staving off, just unsafe conditions for dogs, for animals, for pets. And so this one came out of, there was a doggy daycare in Massachusetts that had a incident where, a couple of dogs had passed away under their care. And this is kind of where we see these bills year after year, state after state kind of come out of. And so a lot of times, a lot of these bills, the way that they're introduced, the senator or the congressman might not necessarily know exactly what they're introducing. People don't if you're not a hunter, you don't think about hunters. If you don't hunt, you don't think about hunters.
Sure.
And so, a lot of times, like, we'll approach these issues and say, did you know that this doesn't allow for this? Did you know that, hunters do, this, if you're saying certain restrictions. And so this is just in a long line of those similar dog bills.
Gotcha. That's one of my
little fisherman.
Yeah. One of my,
I was gonna say, your kid's scaling the wall. You might want to check on her.
Oh, he's grabbing his hockey stick. That's what. So one of my twins. I have 2.5, or almost 3-year-old twins as well. And so, what's up, buddy? Very, very self-sufficient. Courtney, that was awesome. I had a thought on that. So with this bill coming out, you guys have published some stuff about it. So this has risen to a level that it's going to be possibly taking action on soon. Is that kind of what the point we're at now with that one?
Yeah, I'd have to double check on that, because a lot of times, like, they'll have their initial hearing, then they'll go into a committee, and then a lot of times they can vote at any time. So every state is a little bit different in their timeline and when and if they allow public opinion and how. Sometimes you can physically walk into the meeting and you can testify. Sometimes you have to do written comments. Sometimes you can do it via Zoom, live during their session. So, I'd have to double check on that one, where exactly it is at. But that's when our government affairs team contacts our department and says it's time to talk about it. It's usually they've tried to reason with the person who's proposed the bill. They've tried to amend it. They've tried to, and it's just time. So we try to be helpful and constructive. And, at a certain point when they say no, then it's time to participate.
And because it's in Massachusetts or any state for that matter, is it only Massachusetts residents that can then obviously vote on it, right? Or help take action against things like this? Or can other people around the country help shoot something down like this?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And that's something that, we've been seeing a flourish on, especially in social in the last couple of years is, and Brian could speak to this more, if people, saying, us saying, people have to pay attention to this. You got to call, you got to comment, you got to do all these things. And people saying, oh, well, someone else will or whatnot. To now people are really engaged. And so people from other states want to help participate. It depends on what it is. So if it's not, if it's just a bill, then it's not something that is getting voted on. But, the public, it doesn't reach the ballot. The public can't vote on it. But you're calling like your individual, congressmen and legislators. And so it's kind of a gray area. So living in Massachusetts, of course I can go and I can call and I can email my representatives, and they're going to listen. I'm their constituent. They have to pick up the phone. They have to at least pretend to care.
Right.
But when you're calling from another state, it's kind of at their discretion of saying, well, you're from Virginia. Well, you're from Vermont. You're not my constituent. You're not going to revote, you're not going to vote me back in or, you're not I'm not accountable to you.
Yeah.
So it's, everyone can participate. A lot of times the legislators might make it difficult too, like in particular in New York State and certain other states, people don't actually list their email addresses or their phone numbers. They'll have a contact form on their website. And a lot of times they'll make you type in your address and your zip code with your zip code extension before you're even allowed to contact them. Wow. So we can understand, having a lot of our company working, in the legislature, they see the back end of this, they understand we don't want people's comments from all over the country.
Sure.
But why people are concerned is that when this happens in Massachusetts,
it's going to happen somewhere else.
They're going to Connecticut next. They're going to New Hampshire next. They're going across the country. And then the other part is that when some of these initiatives and bills and petitions are being put on by national groups like HSUS, they of course are moving on to the next state. They're just trying it everywhere, tweaking it, trying it in the next state. So very long answer. yes, everyone from every state can participate and make their voice heard on all these issues. If you're from out of state, you perhaps may not get an email back, but every voice is valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback that, the emails are great. If you're out of state, they're going to take it for what it's worth from their perspective. But if you're out of state, the best thing you can do is pick up the phone and call. And actually in state too. Emails are fine. They're great. It gets it on the record. They're also easy to sort by subject and just get rid of. But if you're calling, that gets under their skin because somebody has to answer the phone and then they're tied up. And if they're flooded with calls, it gets under their skin and nobody's working, right? So I don't like that. But if you're out of state and you want to call about something else, the best thing you do is pick up the phone, call, and explain to them, hey, I hunt there. You're trading away my dollars, one for my license dollars and the dollars I'm going to spend in your district, on hotels, on food, on gas. Yeah. Especially gas nowadays.
Right.
So if you can pick up the phone and explain that in a phone call, that's going to have much more impact, even though you're not one of their constituents.
Yeah.
You do visit and you do bring money into their districts or their state, which always weighs heavily on a politician's mind.
I'm glad you said that, because I was just going to ask you, like someone's listening out there, what would you say? You pick up the phone, you make the call, someone answers, what would you say? But I think you kind of mentioned, hey, I hunt in Michigan or Virginia, whatever it might be.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, that we do have going for us as a industry is, we hunt everywhere. We can go anywhere and do this. And so, if it's there, you can call up and tell them that, you're costing your state money and tax money and revenue and everything else.
Yeah, that's great. A couple more I wanted to ask you about. The lead ban. I saw on your site as well. You guys have been posting about that for a little bit. Can you explain what the lead ban is right now and what's going on with that?
Yeah, this is the big one for right now. And we've seen it coming for a while. So, every year that you'll see these headlines that, President Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, they all expand. They say, expanding hunting and fishing on the National Wildlife Refuge, 2 million acres expanded. So in 1997, the Sportsmen's Alliance and our lawyer wrote the 1997 Refuge Improvement Act. And that's what allowed these expansions to take place. And they've been taking place since the Clinton administration. And so in 2020, Trump did his expansions. And everything was fine. Then Biden did his when he came into office, 2 million acres. But the Center for Biological Diversity, radical environmental group, who just loves to sue the government and then recoup their attorney's fees through the Equal Access to Justice Act, they sued over the Trump expansions. And so their legal arguments in the lawsuit was that hunters would trample critical habitat for endangered species in areas where grizzlies and black bear habitat overlap. They could shoot a grizzly bear, an endangered species, by mistake or in self-defense. And then they were saying that lead is poisonous. It kills the raptors. It poisons the water. It does this and that. And so we need to not do these expansions and shut this down. And that's what they're suing over. And once they get a toehold with those, they can expand it into the rest of the refuge. And so the endangered species stuff, they basically sued on this in 2003, right after we passed the 1997 Refuge Improvement Act. A couple years went by and they sued in 2003, 2004. The ruling came back. We beat them. So there's very little legal standing or presidential standing or precedent at all. So this is kind of a slam dunk. We're lining up. NRA was lining up. SCI is lining up. NSS, we're all lining up to jump in, on behalf of the government and say no, and it's a very strong case. Well, the Biden administration decided to sit down and open negotiations with them. And that's when we put the story out there, January, February, that they were negotiating with them when there's absolutely no reason to negotiate.
And this is the group that originally sued back in early 2000s, right?
No, back then, I think it was Fund for Animals back then,
okay.
which later became merged with Humane Society of the United States. But so this group is, out of Arizona and very litigious. They sue over everything. But there was no reason to sit down with them. And the Biden administration has sat down with them to negotiate. And then I think it was in March, senior advisor with the Biden administration said, yes, they're going after lead. This is where the talks are centered around, which was kind of our initial reading. Like, okay, we've already beat them on these two topics. What's left here is lead, and they're going to try to make it go lead free. And so that has gone around and around. They did a stay to keep talking. And now they've proposed a rule, which in effect is a settlement. They've proposed a rule that I think it's 12 states or 8 or 12 states that will go lead free on the wildlife refuges within the system itself. Those states will immediately go lead free. And then any future expansions, by the next president, we're going to open up this unit of this refuge to deer hunting or squirrel hunting or whatever. Any new expansion would have to be lead free. Ammunition, sinkers, whatever.
Okay.
Well, that's going to create a patchwork, right? Because you could be on a refuge and they open different units. So you could be hunting in this field and be fine using lead, and then the next field over have to have non-toxic. So it's going to create a patchwork. One, that endangers us for breaking the law and getting tickets, but it becomes very cumbersome. So what will they probably do? They'll probably just make it all lead free. Then it's a small step from the National Wildlife Refuge System to all federal public lands, BLM, National Forest, anything else. And because the the federal government disburses Pittman Robertson and Dingell Johnson dollars, they can use that funding as leverage to make states make their own public lands lead free.
Oh, geez.
So this is the first domino that's being kicked down.
That would kind of start to these other things come into effect after that.
Yes, because then you have legal precedent. And that gives them the ability to say, no, we did this over here. It's legally sound, gives them a legal footing that otherwise they don't have. So this is actually a very big deal and something we're taking serious and championing.
Yeah. Are wildlife refuges, for those that don't know, are those owned by the states that they're in, or are those federal lands?
Those are federal lands that have a manager. And typically they manage them usually in accordance with kind of the state. They're very similar, but they are federal lands.
Okay. And then how does land like walk-in access land, like Colorado walk-in programs, Nebraska walk-in open fields and waters, like those lands, how do those come into effect?
Those are state lands, usually managed by the state, recruited by the state, paid for, if there's a payment process in the state, whatever that, every state's different, but that's a state initiative.
Okay. And but if this domino effect could happen, that could also affect those kind of lands, right?
Yeah. I mean, if it falls to the state, then down the road, which is where we see this going.
Yeah.
That could be implied. And this goes back to the Obama administration and Dan Ash, who was the the secretary there. His last day in office, he said the wildlife refuge system, phase out lead, get rid of it. And then the Trump administration came in and a week or two later said, no, that's a dumb rule. We're not going to do that. Of course, all the headlines then were Trump is killing the wildlife and poisoning the land and all that, even though the rule had only been in place for 2 weeks.
Oh, jeez.
So, it's a media stunt. But Biden, having been Obama's vice president and that environmental bent tending to vote that way and throw money, into candidates, that's throwing a bone to them and pushing their agenda through the guise of a lawsuit.
Sure. Have you guys been able to I guess make any traction since this lead ban's kind of started to surface a little bit? Where do things lay right now?
So right now they've, we've got, I think it was 33 House of Representatives that signed a letter against it, 27 senators. We organized 41 conservation and advocacy groups within our space, to everybody sending in letters and opposing it. And so that's where it went. Now, just this last week, they proposed the new rule, the states that go immediately and then the eventual phase out of lead while they do a study. Of course, the study will probably come back to whatever they want it to come back and say.
So who's it led by?
It'd be led by USFWS.
National. Okay.
Yeah, federal, which is under the Biden administration right now.
Sure.
So we have until August 8th. People can comment and submit their comments online in writing, whatever, get their comments in, and we'll see what happens then. There's whether they implement the rule or not, we'll see. And steps after that will determine, what happens.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot right there. It's a lot to digest. My mind's spinning. What are some other, is there any other important issues that are going on right now that are kind of good for people to be aware of? Anything big that, similar maybe to the lead ban or anything big that's, we need to know about?
Yeah, I mean, I think just really what's going on in your individual state. So especially right now, being in Massachusetts, right next to me is Rhode Island. So we're kind of getting hammered right now with all sorts of bills that are going on. So yeah, it's, go onto our website, search, you can do the search function and search by state and see what's going on in your state right now. And, what we've been working on the last year, what they tried last year, what they tried the year before that. And yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. Before we wrap up, I just have a couple more things, but as far as if anyone wants to follow along with Sportsman Alliance, be a part of it, help in any way, shape or form, what's the best way to, I guess, connect with you guys, stay in touch, obviously probably website, right? Social media.
Yeah. So stay in touch with us on social for sure. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, follow along, like us, but also, obviously become a member. We'd love for you all to become members. Sure. On our website, you can join as an individual, you can join as a business, corporate sponsor, your sporting club, whether it's a brick and mortar club or an online club, you can join as a club, kind of defray the costs and get a membership that way. But sign up to our newsletter. So we send out individual state specific alerts to just your state when there's something going on that's urgent. We send out a weekly newsletter every Friday with kind of a wrap up of everything going on in the country. And yeah, if you need to reach out to us, reach out on social. info@sportsmansalliance.org is our main email address. That'll get routed to whatever department needs to hear about it, and give us a call.
That's fantastic. Okay, well, keeping with tradition of my podcast here, got a couple closing questions for you both. I'd love for you both to answer this one. It's kind of a staple question I'd love to ask anyone. Can you talk to the new hunter out there? It doesn't just have to be upland hunting. Talk to the new hunter who is just getting into this. Maybe this fall coming up is their first season. They're excited. They're listening to this podcast right now. What's a piece of advice that you would tell them?
I would say ask a lot of questions. There's no dumb questions, and you never know what you're going to learn. You can always learn something new. Even when I'm trying something I haven't done in a little while and someone says, if I repeat something, don't get offended. And I always say the same thing. I say, if you repeat something and I already know it, it will be a great reminder. So really just kind of, leave the ego at the door. You can always learn something new. You can always learn something different. And so whether you're new, whether you're reactivating, you've been, used to hunt as a kid and you're coming back into it, just ask a lot of questions, and if someone makes you feel like that silly to ask questions or you should know it already. Like, poo-poo, shame on them. I started hunting when I was 24 maybe, and I'm still the only person in my family who hunts. And so just be open and learn and make friends. And really for me along the way, joining different NGOs was a great way to meet people. I've moved a lot. And the first thing I do when I land is I join a new chapter of whatever organizations are around me. Go to the banquets, go to the dinners, go to the cleanups. You'll learn about the habitat, you'll make new friends, it's just a win-win for everyone. So ask a lot of questions, make a lot of friends, find a mentor, and then pass it on.
That's great. Well, very well said. Brian, how about you?
For me, having just taken out my nephew and my buddy, just try to enjoy it, even if you're not pulling the trigger. Sometimes it's, especially when you're first starting, you're very focused on pulling the trigger and seeing that one specific animal you can shoot and stuff. Pay attention to the little stuff. That's as you go through this journey, you'll naturally gravitate that way and start doing that and noticing that. You won't be in such a rush to get it all done. But notice those little things and how the animals interact and what habitat they're hanging out in, and get to learn it and know it, and just watch their actions, the young deer or whatever. It can make everything just great. Those sunrises, sometimes that's all you're coming home with. So enjoy the whole process.
Oh, I love that. Thank you guys for both sharing that. Those are two really good perspectives and good things to think through. Okay. Last thing is a couple rapid fire questions for you both. Brian, for you, what came first? The gun, the hunting dogs, or hunting?
That's hard to say, because even before I started doing any of it, I was reading dog books. And okay, I'm going to have to say the dog.
Okay.
So that I was reading.
You writing in an answer?
Huh?
Are you writing in an answer?
I would have to say dogs, because it's, I was reading those Jim Kelgard books when I was little and always had the interest. And then we got a Springer Spaniel and reading training books. And then, my dad started teaching me to shoot, and we took it out hunting. No idea what we were doing with the dog, but I have to say the dog.
Love it.
First.
That's awesome. Courtney, what came first, the gun, the dogs, or hunting?
Hunting.
Okay. That's right. Because you didn't get dogs till a little bit later, right? After you started. There you go.
Much later.
It's all about who you know. You got to find a good friend or two with some dogs, and you're good to go. That's awesome. All right, Courtney, we'll stay on you. How many clays have you ever hit in a row?
Oh, that I don't know. I wouldn't claim more than 5.
Hey, that's more than some.
I'm not sure. Whatever is in my head, probably a lot less.
We'll go with 5. It sounds better. Brian, how about you?
I have no idea. What I do know is when I was at ESPN, we went to a shoot, and my boss and the CEO were there, and I beat both of them. And my boss looked at me and goes, "You're not very smart, are you?" So that's all I know.
I did that too once. I beat one of our VPs I borrowed his gun.
There you go.
Salt in the wound.
Yeah. Very quiet day at the office the next day.
Oh, I'm sure. You're like, why isn't no one talking? Brian, if you had to leave one piece of gear in the truck, what would it be? The gun, the game vest, or your boots?
Game vest. I can put the shells in my pocket. I can tie the birds to my belt.
Oh, you thought this through.
Without a gun and without boots, you're not doing anything. So you're not going to make it very far. Or you're not going to be very successful anyways.
I like the explanation. Courtney.
Same. For the longest time, I couldn't even find a vest that fit me. So I never had a vest on me. So I also kind of shot a lot better without it. So yeah, vest. Usually don't wear one anyways.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Okay. Just a couple more. What gun are you carrying into the field and why?
I shoot a Winchester SX3 for everything because every round I put through it, I get better and better. So that's my duck gun. That's my turkey gun. That's my sporting clay gun.
Is that a 12 or a 12 or a 20?
12.
12. Okay. Very nice. Brian.
So I've got several guns. I've got a nice Benelli. I need to get a nice Browning. What I want is a nice over-under. Probably get a nice Browning. The go-to gun, I'm almost ashamed to say it, is the one I bought in college, 25 years ago, and whatever, almost 30 years ago for like $300.
There you go.
Winchester 1300. It's a boat oar. It's long. But I've never missed a turkey with it. I've take it out pheasant upland hunting, duck hunting. I beat the crap out of it, drop it, whatever. But I know what that gun does, and
that's awesome.
That's the go-to.
That's awesome. All right, just two more here. Brian, favorite dog breed besides the one you own?
Well, I got a lab now, and I'm so split because I keep thinking about getting a different dog, and GSP, a German wire hair, but Springers are always popular. Probably, I don't know, I'd probably lean towards either a wire hair or a Brittany.
Oh, Brittany. Yes.
Yeah, there we go. They're just cool little dogs, the little movers and great little upland dogs. So, dude, I'm a dog guy. I did
You're struggling. You're struggling on this.
I want them all. That's the thing.
I don't blame you. I think I'm a Brittany guy, so I think I heard you say Brittany correct.
There we go. We'll go with that.
We're gonna lock that answer in. It's always a win for the Brit. So
there we go. I like it.
Courtney, how about you? Favorite breed besides the ones you own? So no setters. Any setters?
No setters. No. I don't know. Probably a Flushing Lab. Maybe a Poodle Pointer.
Okay.
Whatever dog finds birds. It's,
so you're not
doesn't matter to me what they look
as they
like.
find you birds.
Nope.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Courtney, beverage of choice after a hunt.
Oh, usually some. Well, it depends how long of a day it was. Yeah. Either a cold, either a cold beer or a warm stainless steel cup of bullet bourbon.
Okay, very nice. Might pour myself one of those tonight. Brian, beverage of choice after a hunt.
Give me a beer.
Are we talking fancy beer? We talking cheap Coors beer? Where's your?
Okay, that depends what we're doing after the hunt. If we're having a nice dinner, I'll take a pale ale. If we're sitting around cleaning birds and picking burrs out of dogs, I'm gonna give me that half rack of Busch Light.
Oh, very good, very good. It's so fun to hear the range of answers I get. Oh, well, Courtney and Brian, this has been so much fun. It was really good getting to know you both and hearing all about what you guys are doing with Sportsmen's Alliance and just all the good work you guys are doing. So thank you. Keep it up. And this has been a blast.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I'm sure we'll be talking soon. Brian, if you want to talk more Brittany's, give me a holler. All right.
Will do, buddy. Thank you.
All right. You both have a great night and I will talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that's a wrap of episode 47 of the Upland Rookie Podcast. Courtney and Brian both, thank you guys so much for taking your time unpacking some of the work you're doing for hunting and fishing and just the outdoor recreations around this country that we all love so much. So really appreciate your knowledge, your wisdom, and just the efforts that you are working on for all of us. Hey guys, just remember, if you are enjoying the podcast, please make sure you are subscribed on whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever platform you're listening to. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the latest episodes downloaded right to your device. Also, share this episode with a friend on social media, tag the Upland Rookie Podcast, and help spread the word to more hunters and bird dog lovers just like you. Remember, go put some miles on those boots and follow your favorite bird dog. Take care.